There was a gas explosion at home that day. Emily is comforting her first love, Michael. He accidentally bumped his leg. The security door was locked from the outside by her. I have a severe fear of heights. I could only curl up by the destroyed window to hide. I was standing over 60 meters high. I was breaking out in a cold sweat. I kept calling Emily. I begged her to come back. She yelled at me impatiently. "Can you stop acting already? I have a lot going on lately. I don't have time to deal with your little thoughts. If you really have that determination, then go ahead and do it." Things turned out just as she predicted. A second explosion occurred soon. I was knocked over by the shockwave of the explosion. I fell from upstairs. I lost my life on the spot. Emily held my cold, broken body. She cried until she fainted several times. I was swept down the stairs by the heat wave of the second explosion. In a daze, I seemed to hear Emily's vows to me at the wedding again, to live and die together, to never leave each other. This is truly ironic. Just 2 hours ago, I was running a high fever, resting in bed, suddenly awakened by a loud noise. Then, a heavy object crashed down on my legs. The sharp pain made me sit up immediately. Could it be an earthquake? I quickly lifted my head. I was startled by the sight in front of me. The ceiling was cracked beyond recognition. Flames were flickering through the gaps. At that moment, I smelled a gas leak. It was a gas explosion. I endured the pain. I pushed the stone off my legs even though it was through the blanket. My legs were still covered in frightening bruises. I hurriedly put on my coat, grabbed my phone. He limped out. The living room ceiling has cracked. I was so scared that I didn't dare to stay any longer. I hurried to open the door, but I twisted the doorknob several times. The door didn't budge at all. In the morning when I got up, Michael called to say he accidentally hurt his leg. He wanted Emily to accompany him. As soon as my wife Emily heard this, she immediately put down the sick me and prepared to go out. As a result, we ended up arguing again because of Michael. I don't know how many times we fought over this. In the end, Emily shouted at me, "You always say I've changed. Haven't you changed? Go look in the mirror, see what you look like now." I've said this many times. Michael and I grew up together. If we really wanted to be together, what does it have to do with you? Michael's parents work out of town. He has been the treasure of the family since he was little. You are used to living alone, but Michael's situation is different from yours. Aren't you running a high fever? Exactly. You should just stay home and reflect. The high fever makes me feel dizzy. I had no idea she meant reflecting at home. It really just means locking me at home. I'm sorry. The number you dialed is currently unavailable. I called several times in a row, but Emily didn't pick up. I felt increasingly worried. I kept making calls while opening all the windows in the house. If the gas upstairs isn't turned off, it might even explode. Finally, someone answered on the other end of the line. Emily spoke softly, but her tone was clearly angry. "Nathan, what do you want from me?" Michael finally fell asleep. You almost woke him up. I didn't want to argue with her anymore. I simply and clearly explained the situation to her. "Emily, you need to come back quickly. There was a gas explosion upstairs. You locked the door from the inside. I can't get out." There was silence on the other end of the phone for a moment. Then a cold laugh followed. "Nathan, you're becoming increasingly unreasonable just to make me go back, to come up with such an absurd reason. It seems you haven't figured it out yet. Then take your time to think it over." After saying that, she immediately hung up the phone. I looked up. The firelight on the ceiling was getting brighter. Thick black smoke was continuously pouring down. I immediately called 911 and 120. Just after hanging up the phone, the thing I was worried about still happened. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. The glass door of the kitchen shattered. I immediately crouched under the table. That was how I avoided greater harm. However, the flying glass shards still cut through my thin nightgown, leaving many small wounds on my body. I didn't have time to think much. I rushed to the door and hit the lock with a wrench. But this door was specifically chosen by Emily during the renovation. She said she often goes on business trips. She was worried about my safety at home alone, so she chose this high-end security door. I exerted all my strength, but I could only leave a few shallow scratches on the door. I saw the room was on fire. I couldn't care less about my aching leg. I quickly filled a bucket with water and started to put out the fire. My phone was still on the table. I kept calling Emily. The beeping sound and the smell of burning. It reminded me of the day my parents had the car accident when I was a child. In that accident, my mother held me tightly. She protected me with her body, but because of that, I lost her. I became an orphan. Since then, whenever I ride in a car, I always feel like I can smell the acrid scent of the burning materials from that time. It lingers on. Later, thanks to Emily's constant patience and support, I slowly emerged from that shadow. I even got my driver's license. At first, Emily pursued me for 2 years. Only then did I agree to be with her. In these 5 years of marriage, she has treated me exceptionally well. She always takes me with her, no matter the occasion. Every time we meet someone, she proudly introduces me. She says I'm the most important person in her heart. Everyone who knows me says I'm lucky to have such a wonderful wife. But 6 months ago, her first love, Michael, came back. Everything changed. I became the secondary person. I became the backup option. No matter when, I had to make way for Michael. This time I had a high fever of 39.5 degrees. Michael accidentally bumped into her leg. Emily was instantly drawn to him. I finally managed to finish what I was working on, but Emily still didn't answer the phone. I simply sent her the photos in the room. Emily, if you don't hurry back, I might really be in trouble. The message was just sent out not long ago. Emily's call came in. I suddenly felt a glimmer of hope. Nathan, you really did a great job. Who helped you make the photo look so realistic, I have to say. It's so real that I almost believe it's true. I quickly interrupted her. There really was a gas explosion at home. I'm not lying to you, and I'm not putting on an act. I beg you to come back and see me. Okay, don't you worry that I might run into trouble. There was obviously a pause on the other end. When they spoke again, their tone wasn't as firm. I quickly continued speaking. The fire department hasn't arrived yet. If you drive back from Michael's place, you should be able to get here before they do. Please, hurry up. Emily, Nathan is lying to you. I just saw Emily's mom posted a picture of watering flowers on the balcony. Emily's tone suddenly became firm. I want to believe you one more time. I didn't expect that you were really lying to me. That was the end of the conversation. She immediately hung up the phone. The smoke in the room was getting thicker. The bathroom door had been blown off its hinges. I could only hide by the window on the balcony. I'm on the 23rd floor. The window is still wide open. I have a severe fear of heights. Just getting close to the window makes me feel dizzy. I forced myself to endure the discomfort. I sat down by the window. In the distance, the sound of a fire truck siren could be heard. I kept repeating in my mind, "Don't worry, everything will be fine. Everything will turn out well." The fire truck arrived quickly. I will be rescued soon. I recalled what Michael said earlier. I opened my social media. I found that Emily's mom had just posted an update. I sent her a live video to make her call Emily back quickly. The video and voice message didn't go through. A striking red exclamation mark suddenly appeared next to the chat box. Emily's mom actually blocked me, I guess. She might be secretly meeting Uncle John behind Emily's back. She went to meet Uncle John in secret. Ever since she met Uncle John in the park, Emily's mom has been obsessed with him as if under a spell. Emily strongly opposes her mom finding a partner. Every time, Emily's mom just brings Aunt Jang as a cover to secretly meet Uncle John. She even warned me, if I tell Emily about this, she'll make Emily divorce me. She posts on social media. Actually, she wants to cover up her dating situation. I'm so angry. I immediately called Emily's mom, but Aunt Jang answered the phone. She said, Nathan, your mother-in-law is not here right now. Let's call back later." After hanging up the phone, I realized that besides Aunt Jang's voice, there was also Emily's mom faintly shouting. Strangely enough, I clearly heard the sound of a fire truck earlier, but after a few minutes, the fire truck still hadn't arrived. Suddenly, the phone rang. The caller asked, "Are you Mr. Nathan?" "Yes, I am. Our fire truck is 500 meters away from your community. It's blocked by a sudden car accident. We've tried several times but still can't get through. Please make sure to cover your mouth and nose. Try to stay in a safe and ventilated place." We will arrive as soon as possible." After hanging up the phone, I looked in the direction of the fire truck siren. I kept silently praying for a miracle to happen. The biting cold wind from the tall buildings kept blowing. Plus, I had just broken out in a cold sweat while fighting the fire. I was feeling increasingly dizzy. My whole body, muscles, and bones started to ache. In a blur, it feels like I returned to that year, when I went to the beach with Emily. I held her hand. We ran excitedly all the way, but I accidentally cut my foot on a shard of glass on the beach. Emily gently touched my wound, and tears kept falling. She said, "Honey, it's all my fault. It was my carelessness that hurt you, I promise. From now on, anything related to you, I will be especially careful. I will never let you get hurt or upset again." This reminds me of the year she proposed to me. Emily meticulously planned the proposal ceremony. She invited all our friends and family. Fireworks burst in heart shapes in the sky. Emily solemnly knelt on one knee. "Nathan, I'm sorry I'm late. I let you spend so many years alone. From now on, I want to be your wife and your friend, and I also want to become your family. I will bring along the love from my uncles and aunts. I will give you all the good things." The pain on Emily's face instantly disappeared. In its place was complete impatience and sarcasm. She said, "You have been an orphan since you were little. You are destined to live alone. Our Michael has always been a treasure held in everyone's hands since childhood. No matter how hard you try, this ordinary stone will never become a pearl." I want to retort, but my throat is dry and hoarse. I can't say a word. Emily keeps attacking me with words, leaving me completely defenseless. Suddenly, the phone rang urgently, pulling me back to reality from my daze. A voice came from the other end of the line. "Mr. Nathan, traffic is congested and will take at least 20 more minutes to clear. Once you arrive, if you need to unlock something, it may take even more time. Can you tell me your wife's phone number? I'll contact her." After I handed Emily's phone number to the firefighter, I tried to move my stiff and sore body a bit. My parents died in a fire caused by a car accident back then. They were in their last moments of life. Were they also this desperate? I haven't received a call back from the fire department. Emily's call came in first. She shouted at me angrily, "You woke Michael up again. Are you satisfied now? You even hired someone to act and deceive me. You're getting better at pretending. If this continues, I don't think we need to stay together anymore." I said hoarsely, "Just trust me this once. Is that okay? I'm definitely not lying to you." My whole body hurts badly sitting by the window, feeling particularly scared inside. "Please help me." The words weren't finished. She felt a surge of unwillingness, grievance, anger, and heartache. I forcefully suppressed all these emotions because I promised my parents to carry on their part as well, to live well. Stop pretending to be pitiful. I already asked my mom. There was no gas explosion at all. You've been sleeping in the bedroom. I think you're just too idle. If there's nothing wrong with your health, hurry back to work or find something else to do. The wind by the window might be too cold. Or maybe my fever has gotten worse. I feel like my heart is slowly freezing. I calmed down. He said coldly, "Emily, I have sought your help many times, but you chose to give up on me. If something happens to me today, I wouldn't want to be buried as your husband. Emily, let's get a divorce. The identity of your husband should be left for those who truly need it." The mocking tone on the other end of the phone suddenly grew stronger. "Divorce? You actually threaten me with divorce? Do you think mentioning divorce will make me back down? If you want a divorce, then let's get a divorce. Wait until I get home today. We'll go handle the paperwork tomorrow." My consciousness gradually faded. Then I heard Emily continue speaking. "You always say things are going to go wrong. I can't go on living like this. If you really have that determination, then just go do it. You better hurry and leave. Don't let me come back tonight and still see you here." The call has been disconnected. I breathed a sigh of relief. I think this is not bad. Just then, a sudden, urgent knocking came from the door. "Mr. Nathan, Mr. Nathan, are you still there? Someone in your community has blocked the fire exit. A few of us came over to take a look. Don't worry, we're going to try to open the door right away." I tried to raise my hand, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't move. "Mr. Nathan, are you okay? Please respond to us. If you hear this, please respond to us. I'm so exhausted that I can't speak." The knocking and banging from outside grew louder. However, before hope could arrive, the second explosion occurred. With an even louder bang, the load-bearing wall of the living room cracked. Immediately after, a burst of intense flames accompanied by a scalding shockwave shattered the windows. I was also thrown away, falling from dozens of meters high. This was a nightmare for someone afraid of heights like me. After the intense dizziness and fear, I crashed heavily to the ground. My whole body ached unbearably. I completely broke down. "Emily, are you satisfied now? I've really left." At that moment, Emily is softly coaxing her to sleep by Michael's bed. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her chest. Her phone vibrated. She received a local news alert. There was a severe gas explosion in a high-rise at Maplewood Heights. Witnesses said someone fell from the upper floors. The casualty situation is still unknown. The cause of the incident is under investigation. I hovered above my shattered body. Dazed, I watched as more and more onlookers gathered around. There was a very young firefighter nearby. He was kneeling on the ground. He was crying loudly. I wanted to go comfort him. "Don't be sad. You've already done your best. Next, be careful during the rescue." But my hand went right through his body. Just then, a shout caught my attention. "Michael." I felt my heart race. "Can you check which floor the explosion happened on?" I turned to look. It was Emily and Michael. Michael looked up, counting layer by layer. "Emily, it seems to be on the 23rd floor." Emily's face suddenly turned pale. She tightly grasped Michael's hand, barely managing to stand firm. Then, her eyes brightened. She quickly ran towards the firefighter, urgently asked, "Hello, may I ask where my husband Nathan is?" The young firefighter had red eyes, suddenly stood up, like an angry little leopard. If it weren't for others holding him back, I guess he might have rushed at Emily. "I called you several times. Why didn't you answer at all? It was hard to get through. You came up and said we were frauds. Don't you care at all about your husband's safety? Weren't you looking for him? Look, he's over there." Emily listened to the firefighter's words. She turned to look in the direction he pointed. Suddenly, my legs went weak. I sat directly on the ground. She tried to speak several times, but the sound that came out was like a beast's growl. This time, she did not hesitate any longer, because she recognized the pajamas I was wearing and the wedding ring she designed herself on my right hand. After a while, she suddenly lost control. She crawled on her knees to my side. Trembling, she reached out her hand. Slowly, she uncovered the white cloth covering my face. Emily cried out in pain. Then she hugged my bleeding body tightly without hesitation. "Husband, are you joking with me? I haven't told you yet. I have already bought the tickets to Sipadan. Haven't you always wanted to go? You need to get up now. We're leaving today." "Okay, Emily. I have long since lost the desire to go. Every time you leave me to find Michael, I want to go even less." Michael wanted to pull her up, but he was a bit disgusted by the blood on her. "Emily, get up quickly. You still have me. I will always be with you." At this moment, a firefighter had just rescued an injured person. He happened to hear this statement. He glanced at Michael dismissively and said coldly, "You know you're in the wrong." Michael was very angry. He pointed at the firefighter and asked Emily to seek justice for her. She said, "Emily, he's bullying me." Emily turned her head expressionlessly. She coldly stared at Michael and said, "Stop talking." Michael widened his eyes. He looked at her in surprise. But in the end, he still didn't speak again. I watched from the side and sneered inwardly. "Didn't you always wish for my death? Now your wish has come true. Are you satisfied now?" Emily held me tightly. She was unwilling to let go no matter what, until her mother came back. She hit me twice heavily. Only then did she release me. She started to cry loudly. She cried and asked, "Mom, didn't you say Nathan was sleeping well? Why is it like this now?" Emily's mother avoided eye contact a bit. She said, "It's because he kept insisting on having taro mud crispy duck, so I went out with Aunt to buy it for him. Oh dear, we are really lucky." Emily's eyes were red. She shot a cold glance at Emily's mother. Emily's mother immediately shut her mouth. Just then, I suddenly felt a strong calling. "Do I have to leave now, Emily? I hope we never meet again." The victim's brain activity suddenly became active. Further examination is needed. I felt like I was walking down a long corridor. A sigh came from the end of the corridor. Go ahead. Take good care of Mom and Dad for me. And then I heard the beeping of machines, the sound of people talking and crying. A familiar voice softly called me. I struggled to open my eyes, just in time to see a kind couple looking at me excitedly. Ethan, you're awake. Can you hear Mom and Dad talking? Suddenly, a flood of memories I had never experienced rushed into my mind. For a moment, the information was too chaotic. I couldn't even tell what year or month it was. Looking at the couple in front of me, I couldn't help but speak. Dad, Mom. After saying that, a tear rolled down uncontrollably. Upon hearing my response, the couple also shed tears of joy. I am Ethan, but I vaguely remember I have a name. It's Nathan. Mom was so excited that she knelt on the ground. With her hands clasped together, she bowed her head several times. God bless. Ethan finally woke up. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. They all expressed their gratitude. Thank you. I vaguely remember, during one of my high fevers, there seemed to be a beautiful aunt praying for me so devoutly on her knees. After the doctor heard the commotion, he arranged for me to have a full-body checkup. The results won't be available until tomorrow, so we have to spend another night at the hospital. In the evening, my parents pushed me in a wheelchair for a walk. I saw a tall and handsome man in the hallway. His clothes were stained with blood. He looked very sad. He sat there crying continuously. I thought, he may have lost someone particularly important to him. I approached. I saw the man's face clearly. Suddenly, my head started to throb. I almost lost my balance. After a while, the pain subsided. The vague memories in my mind slowly became clear. Now my name is Ethan, but a few hours ago I was called Nathan because there was a gas explosion at Maplewood Heights. Nathan died in that incident, and Ethan was injured this afternoon in a chain collision near Maplewood Heights. He was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. A woman sitting on the ground, crying heartbreakingly. She is my wife, Emily. Seeing her so out of control, I felt an unusual calmness inside. My parents noticed that I was staring at her. They whispered to me, asking if I knew her. I shook my head. No, I don't know her. It's just that she looks pitiful crying like that, and a bit funny too. I was passing by. Emily seemed to sense something. She looked over at me. She suddenly shook off her grandmother and Michael, who were supporting her. She ran towards me quickly. My parents quickly moved in front of me. They tightly shielded me behind them, not letting Emily see me. Nathan, was it you who did this? I felt a tightness in my chest. I struggled to suppress the urge to take out my phone and check how I looked. Sorry, ma'am. Although you may have encountered something sad, it's heartbreaking. But could you please step aside? You're blocking my son. My son doesn't know you. We also don't know who this Nathan you mentioned is. If you keep blocking us, we will have to call security from the hospital. Emily tried to push her mother away, but she was almost pushed down by her father. I didn't want to escalate the situation. I immediately stepped forward to stop it. This lady, I don't understand why you're blocking our way. If you don't move aside, I'll have to call the police. Emily looked at my face. Her gaze was flickering. That night, in the dead of night, I lay in bed, reflecting on everything that happened today. I still can't believe it. I actually was reborn in a new body. Thinking of that moment when I heard, "Take good care of my parents," my heart was filled with mixed emotions. That must have been Ethan's last wish. I have never believed in ghosts or deities, but at this moment, I sincerely thank the heavens. Not only did I get a chance to be reborn, but I was also granted a pair of healthy and loving parents. So, carrying Ethan's wishes, let's live well. The next day's test results came out. The doctors were all very surprised. They said I had such a serious car accident, yet I only fainted for a few hours. I only have minor abrasions on my body. After returning home, my parents were busy taking care of things. They were making nutritious meals again. They were buying supplements again. They were extremely anxious. Even though I repeatedly said I was fine, they still came over from time to ask if I was feeling unwell. Days passed. Although I really didn't want to go to work, eventually it was time to go to work. As for why I didn't want to go to work, it's because I suddenly remembered. The company I work for is the same as Emily's company. I work in the retail marketing department. I rarely have the chance to report directly to Emily. I just need to focus on doing my job well. It's fine as long as I don't have too much contact with Emily outside of work. I silently cheered myself on. I didn't expect that on my first day back at the company. The company's Thanksgiving event made Emily recognize me. She patted my shoulder and said, "You're the one I saw at the hospital that day, Ethan." Emily, hello, I'm Ethan from the marketing department. Emily nodded in response. Your habit of picking at your fingers when you're nervous is exactly the same as my husband's, she continued. And you really resemble my husband. Yes, if he completely changed his appearance, I wouldn't have to worry at all. The problem is Ethan's appearance. It looks at least 50 to 60% like my original appearance. I stopped what I was doing, and my expression became cautious. I'm really sorry. I heard about your loved one. Please take care. That's right. Nathan is dead. He died right in front of Emily. Ethan, you really don't need to be afraid. Indeed. Upon hearing this, Emily lowered her head and softly responded. I seized the opportunity to return to my seat, so I didn't notice either. When I turned around, Emily's gaze carried a hint of deep meaning. Emily found out. Ethan joined the company 3 years ago. He had previously lived in Seattle until he went to college. Only then did his whole family move to New York City. We also discovered Ethan was actually the child adopted by the Ethan couple. The adoption agency is located in Seattle. It's the same place as his wife's hometown. Emily nodded. She handed a box to her assistant. Emily asked her assistant to quickly check the DNA. After the assistant left, she stood alone by the window, looking down at the ground dozens of meters below. Her heart ached terribly. Even now, she still feels like all of this is a dream. She cannot accept the fact that Nathan is gone. Therefore, she did not attend Nathan's funeral. Whenever someone told her that Nathan was no longer here, she would lose control of her emotions. At that moment, a pair of strong arms gently wrapped around Emily's waist. Emily told me, "Emily, I specially cooked pigeon soup for you to nourish you." I pushed him away forcefully. I took out a bank card from the drawer. "You keep this. Don't come here again, and don't let me see you again. Nathan will be unhappy to see you." Michael stared at her like she was a weirdo. In the end, he said nothing. He picked up the bank card and left in a huff. In the following days, Emily often called me to her office to report on work. She even had her assistant bring me breakfast, and it was always breakfast from Nathan's favorite place. When Nathan was unwell before, he once said he wanted to eat breakfast from that place. But Emily didn't buy it for him at that time. I could feel my colleagues around me starting to gossip, but I didn't expect their guesses to be so outrageous. That day, I was washing my hands at the bathroom door and accidentally overheard two girls chatting back and forth. "Have you heard? Emily always buys breakfast for a male colleague in the marketing department named Ethan. She often gives him gifts too. Everyone in the company has heard about it, right? Emily's husband just passed away. She started to frequently flirt with another man. They might have had an affair for a long time. Maybe Emily's husband knew about it. Keep your voice down. Don't say that recklessly. That kind of talk shouldn't be taken lightly. So what? Others have done those things. Am I not allowed to say anything after they leave?" I wiped my hands with a grim expression. I opened the chat window, which had received many messages these past few days. It said, "Emily, your behavior is troubling me. I already have a fiancé. We are getting married soon. Please stop your current behavior." I actually don't have a fiancé, but to avoid the lie being exposed, I quickly had my mom arrange a blind date for me. That day after work, I went straight to a cafe near the company. I had arranged to meet my date there. My mom had told me before. This person returned from studying in the UK. They are a particularly well-mannered and polite person. I didn't expect to run into someone I knew here. I almost called out her name. She spoke first. "Hello, I'm Sophia." "Hello, Ethan." I didn't expect this person to be Emily's friend. However, before we got married, Sophia and Emily fell out for some reason. "Ethan, can I call you that? You look a lot like someone I know, but you both seem quite different. You resemble a bright and sunny sunflower. One can't help but want to get close. The other person is like a thorny rose. One instinctively wants to keep their distance. So which one do you prefer? I couldn't help but ask. Another person lost their parents at a young age. They are always very cautious when interacting with others. It makes one feel quite sorry for them. She looked at me and said, "But you are different. When I first met you, I felt you had an irresistible power. It seemed destined for you to enter my life." I lowered my head. I didn't answer her. Loving someone is like tending to flowers. It requires patience and care. Previously, Emily didn't give me enough sense of security. Whenever there was a slight movement near her, I would become very nervous. But ever since I became Ethan, with parents who love me meticulously, I gradually became more cheerful. I had a great time chatting with Sophia. We not only exchanged contact information, but also set a time for our next meeting. I didn't expect that. When I went to the basement to get the car, suddenly someone covered my mouth from behind. In just a few seconds, I passed out. Before losing consciousness, I sensed that person was wearing a wedding ring on their right hand index finger. It was Emily's voice. "Nathan, wake up." The moment I opened my eyes, I saw Emily. She brought me to our old home in Maplewood Heights. The place had already been tidied up, but the ceiling was still in disrepair. I said to her, "Emily, what you're doing is kidnapping." You know that? Emily couldn't stop laughing, as if she couldn't control herself. I tried to move my hands against the ropes. I found that the knot she tied was a dead knot. It was tied especially tight. Don't waste your effort. You remember, right? We were taught this in the survival course. I pretended not to understand. I asked, "Emily, what should I know? I'm just an ordinary employee in the marketing department. Why are you doing this?" Emily was almost frantically caressing my face. She whispered, "Nathan, don't be angry with me anymore. Those little habits of yours. And your eating habits, I'm fully aware of them. I've verified it. You and Ethan are indeed twins. So it was Ethan who passed away that day, right? Because you were angry with me. You thought I went to be with Michael, instead of coming home to be with you. So you deliberately staged this act." Emily's behavior makes me feel both angry and amused. She didn't appreciate Nathan back then. Now she seems to be frantically looking for a substitute for him. I lifted my neck and said to her, "If you don't believe me, you can take a look. I have a heart-shaped birthmark on my collarbone and neck. If what you say is true, the Nathan you mentioned and I are twins. Then it's normal for twins to share some habits." Emily looked at my neck. She unbuttoned my shirt and gently pulled down the collar. Suddenly, she held her breath. "Immediately pull the collar back. Help me button it up again. No matter if you have a birthmark or not, you are still my Nathan." "Emily, stop lying to yourself. I heard. Your husband's death was because you went to be with Michael. You didn't have time to save him. Since that's the case, you might as well just be with Michael. Why must you cling to me, someone who looks like him? Don't say that. Don't say that. Michael was just my brother before. From now on, we are strangers. My husband was the most important person in my life. I won't allow you to mention that word again." "Emily, what are you talking about? Just a brother." Michael suddenly barged in. He was so angry he was gritting his teeth. "Tell me now. You only see me as a brother. You used to always say I was your most important person." Michael pointed at me. He said firmly, "It used to be Nathan. Now you think you can just dump me for a man who looks like Nathan. Let me tell you, this is impossible." After he finished speaking, he lunged at me. Only when he got closer did I see he was holding a fruit knife. I wanted to struggle and dodge, but the ropes tied me to the dining table. I couldn't move at all, as the fruit knife was about to stab me. Emily suddenly rushed over and hugged me. The sound of the knife piercing flesh came from behind her. Michael screamed in fear. He dropped the knife. "I'm here. You won't suffer anymore from now on." As Emily spoke, she pulled out a fruit knife from her waist. Holding the knife, she slowly walked towards Michael. "I already warned you. Don't get close to Nathan again. This is all your own doing now." After saying that, she plunged the fruit knife forcefully into Michael's stomach. Michael fell to the ground. The voice continued to speak weakly. "But didn't you say before? Are we destined for each other? You also said I was the most important to you." Watching Emily and Michael hurt each other, I suddenly remembered the past. Emily has also hurt me multiple times because of Michael. I suddenly started to feel confused. Do I hate this man in front of me or feel sympathy? The sound of sirens grew closer. Emily sat on the ground in pain, yet she was still laughing softly. Nathan, I recognized it was you, the day I held you. I vaguely heard you say goodbye to me at the Thanksgiving event. I recognized you at a glance. You are Nathan. I admit I was wrong, Nathan. I didn't cherish you properly before. Now you don't want to pay attention to me. I can understand. I turned my head, no response, and I didn't look again. After the police came in, they took Emily and Michael away separately. Emily was being escorted by the police. She kept turning back and shouting at me, Nathan, can you call me one more time, just one last time? I beg you. Okay, she was faced with my cold attitude. I told her, Emily, if you do something wrong, you have to face the consequences. My parents rushed over. They circled around me a few times, after carefully checking me over. Once they confirmed I wasn't hurt, my mom couldn't help but cry. She shouted, Is your boss crazy? Why did they kidnap my son? I said softly, That's right, she does have some issues. Mom, please don't be angry because of her. I finally felt relieved. Having been with Emily for so long, I am well aware of her almost insane obsession. Since she believes I am Nathan, she will definitely find ways to keep me by her side. For that reason, I installed tracking software on my phone in advance and informed my parents if my whereabouts deviate from my usual route, they should call the police immediately. A week later, when the lawyer called me, I was on a date with Sophia. Mr. Ethan, Emily wants to see you. I glanced at the nervous Sophia across from me. I directly refused, Mr. Ethan. There's one more thing. Emily's mother hopes you can sign a letter of understanding. The terms are up to you. Any amount is fine. I smiled slightly. My ex-mother-in-law is just like Emily. She believes that material things can make up for all mistakes. Unfortunately, I am not the Nathan who loved Emily deeply, nor am I the soft-hearted, easily bullied Nathan. I request the court to make a fair judgment, because Emily's actions have caused harm to both my mind and body. So I will not sign the letter of understanding. After saying that, he hung up the phone. Sophia showed a sour expression across the table. I thought you would give Emily a break. After all, she is the object of admiration for all the men in New York City. I immediately silenced her with her favorite dessert. To be honest, I don't like her. Girlfriend. During the trial process, Emily voluntarily admitted that she planned and executed the kidnapping. What surprised me was, she actually admitted to intentionally harming Michael. Michael took that stab. Although it didn't hit a vital spot, it still completely broke him. He still can't believe Emily would go after him because of me. This is driving him to the brink of a breakdown. He ignores the advice. He charges at Emily with a bowl of hot porridge, pour it directly on her. The courtroom was unusually noisy that day. The former mother-in-law, who always favored Michael, didn't care about her image. She got into a scuffle with Michael. Emily shouted angrily at her mother, If it weren't for you not having self-respect at such an old age, running out to secretly meet someone else, and lying to cover it up, I wouldn't have missed the chance to save Nathan. To be honest, all three of us are responsible for Nathan's death. We all deserve to be punished in the end. Emily was sentenced to 7 years. The company was taken over by other members of Emily's family. The former mother-in-law lost her daughter's financial support. She could only get 5,000 yuan a month from Emily's family, but she wasn't worried at all, because she still had a lot of money in her little fund, enough to start over when her daughter gets out. But her happiness didn't last long. She found out that Uncle John was actually a fraud. He gradually scammed away her savings. Then he escaped abroad with his wife. A few days ago, her mother-in-law caused a scene outside the police station in the morning. In the afternoon, she went to Emily Group to demand repayment. This scene was posted online by an unknown person. Before long, netizens uncovered Emily's statements in court. Everyone quickly understood. This was a repulsive mother-in-law. She abused her son-in-law. She fabricated lies to go on dates. As a result, her son-in-law died in an explosion. At first, some young girls in the company felt a bit sympathetic towards the ex-mother-in-law, but later, when these girls saw her, they couldn't help but murmur, like mother, like daughter. With such a poor family upbringing, the descendants also learned to do wrong. Both Emily and her mother-in-law brought this upon themselves. I didn't take these matters to heart, just focus on work. Not long after, I received a promotion notice. I decided to move to Chicago with my parents. It's a way to put the past behind me. Sophia did it for me. She also brought her parents to settle in Chicago. On the day of the wedding, she held my hand tightly. She earnestly recited the wedding vows, but a voice in my heart kept asking, "Are you not afraid of going through the same thing again?" I looked at the woman in front of me, and my heart was very determined. I now have parents who love me. I have enough financial freedom. Marriage and a partner are just spices in life. If it's not suitable, then remove that spice. Ethan is not Nathan. Ethan will make this life more wonderful.